Hello everyone, my name is Diksha and I am from the Bodhi Academy. Today I am going to continue with the P block elements chapter, which is an inorganic chapter from standard 12th chemistry. Last part I have stopped till the reactivity towards metals of the group 15 elements. So today we are going to study about dinitrogen. Dinitrogen is a special compound or molecule of nitrogen which comes under group 15. So let us start about the studying about the preparation and other properties about the dinitrogen. So dinitrogen, okay, which is very important for us, which is present in air. It's produced commercially by the liquefaction and fractional distillation. Now see, in air we have different types of gases, but if you want specifically nitrogen, then we need to carry some uh, distillation, okay, or a process in which we can separate out the nitrogen from that. So this we can carry out by doing liquefaction and fractional distillation of air. And liquid nitrogen boiling point, that is 77.2 Kelvin, it distills out first, leaving behind the liquid oxygen. So the one who is having low boiling point will distill out first, and then one who is having high boiling point will distill out later. Then in the laboratory it is prepared by treating aqueous solution of ammonium chloride. Okay, so we can see ammonium chloride even treated with sodium nitrite, okay, NH4Cl with NaNO2, it gives nitrogen and water along with sodium chloride. So dinitrogen can be prepared in the laboratory using ammonium chloride and sodium nitrite. Then it can be also prepared by thermal decomposition of ammonium dichromate. So this is ammonium dichromate, in which we can carry out the decomposition, thermal decomposition, to obtain the N2 gas. Then very important method to obtain the pure nitrogen is thermal decomposition of sodium or barium azide. So this is the example of barium azide, in which barium azide is decomposed to get the barium and nitrogen gas. So barium nitride, or we can take sodium nitride also. Sodium nitride is given here. See, this is a reaction of sodium nitride. 2NaN3 gives 2Na plus 3N2, and this is a barium azide, which is this. Then about properties, it is odorless, colorless, tasteless, then non-toxic gas, and can form two isotopes, 14 nitrogen and 15 nitrogen. Okay, now here the important thing we have to remember is this: nitrogen is inert at room temperature. It will not easily react with anyone. Okay, so it is inert at room temperature because of the high bond enthalpy. Now since nitrogen forms triple bond, the strength of the bond is very high and you cannot easily break the bond. So that's why bond enthalpy is very high, and reactivity increases rapidly with rise in temperature. If you give more and more temperature, then only the reactivity will increase. Okay, and high temperature, it increases and it directly combines with metals to form predominantly ionic nitride. So it forms ionic nitrides when combined with elements at high temperature. For example, when you react nitrogen with lithium under high temperature, we get lithium nitride. If you react magnesium with nitrogen, we get magnesium nitride. Okay, then it combines with hydrogen. Now this is very important reaction and very important process, okay, that we carry out to obtain ammonia, which is called as a Haber's process. In this, nitrogen is combined with hydrogen to get ammonia at 773 Kelvin, and here the enthalpy of formation is minus 46.1 kilojoules per mole, which tells us that this is an exothermic reaction. Then we'll move on to ammonia. Ammonia, first of all, in small quantity or small scale preparation, it is prepared by the decay of nitrogenous organic matter, that is urea. Okay, this is the formula of urea. Urea when treated with water gives ammonium carbonate, which further gives ammonia, water and carbon dioxide. Then ammonium chloride when treated with calcium hydroxide gives ammonia, water and calcium chloride, and ammonium sulfate plus sodium hydroxide gives ammonia, water and sodium sulfate. So on large scale it is produced by the Haber's process, which we have discussed right now. So N2 plus 3H2 gives 2NH3, which is a reversible process, okay, in which formation enthalpy is minus 46.1 kilojoules per mole. In accordance with Le-Chatelier's principle. Now Le-Chatelier's principle we have already studied in 11th standard, which states that equilibrium reaction will try to shift in the direction if you alter the reaction conditions, okay. In order to attain the equilibrium, it will try to shift the direction. So in this reaction, high pressure will favor the formation of ammonia. High pressure will favor the formation of ammonia, okay. Since we have at reactant side we have 3 plus 1, 4 moles, here 2 moles. So high pressure means it will go this side, lesser number of moles. So more and more product will be formed. That's why high pressure will favor the formation of ammonia. Optimum conditions are pressure of 200 into 10 raised to 5 pascals. How much pressure we need to give here? 200 into 10 raised to 5 pascals, and temperature of around 700 Kelvin is required. And also use of the catalyst such as iron oxide with small amount of potassium oxide and aluminium oxide to increase the rate of attainment of equilibrium. So these two oxides can be used as a catalyst to increase the rate of the reaction. And this is a flow chart showing the production of ammonia, wherein H2 and N2 is passed in the compressor, wherein they are getting compressed and then they are sent to the chamber having catalyst and the iron oxide, that is aluminium oxide plus potassium oxide, and it combines to give liquid NH3, and which is then taken in the pump, okay, and we are getting the NH3 here. Then properties of ammonia. It is a colorless gas with pungent odor. We all must have aware of how the ammonia smells like. So it's freezing and boiling points of 198 and 239 respectively, and it is having this structure, trigonal pyramidal structure. It's highly soluble in water, and aqueous solution is weakly basic due to formation of OH minus ions. Then these are the two reactions showing the formation of precipitate, wherein zinc sulfate when combines with ammonium hydroxide gives this metal hydroxide of zinc and iron, in which zinc is forming white precipitate and iron is forming brown precipitate, okay. And the presence of lone pair of electrons on nitrogen makes it a Lewis base. As we have studied that Lewis base is the one who can donate electron pair, okay. So since nitrogen always have this lone pair, that's why it is considered as a Lewis base, NH3. It donates electron pair and forms linkage with metal ions, okay. For example, when NH3 is combined with copper, it forms this complex compound, that is tetraamine cuprate or tetraamine copper, which is having a deep blue solution. Then silver, when silver chloride is treated with NH3, it forms a diamine silver chloride, and which is a colorless. Okay, now see, here we get these complex compounds, which some are colored and some are colorless. So ammonia is used to produce nitrogenous fertilizers such as ammonium nitrate, urea, ammonium sulfate, and manufacture of inorganic nitrogen compounds. So these are the uses of ammonia. Let's move on to the oxides of nitrogen. Now nitrogen can form many oxides. So some are given in this table, that is nitrogen oxide, nitrogen monoxide, dinitrogen trioxide. So basically they have this particular oxidation state. If you consider N2O, that is nitrogen oxide, then we already know the oxidation state of oxygen, which is -2. So let us find the oxidation rate of N. So N2 means we will consider N as X, so it will become 2X. 2X plus O is -2, which gives 0. So 2X minus 2 is 0. So So 2x is equal to 2. So x is equal to 2 by 2, which is 1. That's why it is having +1 oxidation state. Similarly, we can find out the oxidation states of all these oxides of nitrogen. And common methods of preparation are given over here. Okay. Then these are the structures of oxides of nitrogen, wherein this is N2O structure, linear. If I consider NO2 structure, okay, NO2 structure, we can see there is only one electron on each nitrogen, okay, and which is not stable. So what happens here, there is one question that is frequently asked on this, that why NO2 dimerize. Now this NO2 dimerize to give us this compound N2O4, okay, that you can see if you combine this and this compound, we get this compound, which is N2O4. Now it dimerizes as it is having only one electron, okay, and not a pair of electron. So this one electron and this electron, they get together and they form a bond between these two nitrogen and they get stable. That's why it dimerizes, okay. Then nitric acid formula. Now we already know what is the formula because we use nitric acid in the laboratory. So nitric acid is HNO3, which is mostly used in the laboratory for practical purpose, experimental purpose. Then preparation, sodium nitrate treated with sulfuric acid gives sodium hydrogen sulfate plus nitric acid. And like how we prepare ammonia by Haber's process on large scale, same way this is prepared on large scale by Ostwald's process. The name of the process is Ostwald's process. So ammonia, when treated with O2, that is oxygen, in presence of platinum or rhodium gauge catalyst, it gives nitrogen oxide and water. Then it formed the nitrogen oxide which is formed combines with the oxygen to give nitrogen dioxide, and it dissolves in water to give nitric acid. So these are the three steps which are followed in the Ostwald's process. Then properties of nitric acid, it in gaseous state it exerts a planar molecule with the structure as shown. So this is the structure of nitric acid in gaseous state, and also behaves as strong acid giving hydronium and nitrate ions. So this is the reaction. Then there are two important reactions which are asked frequently when nitric acid is treated with dilute nitric acid is treated with copper and concentrated nitric acid treated with copper. So when dilute nitric acid is treated with copper, we get cuprous nitrate along with nitrogen oxide and water. And when concentrated is treated, we get cuprous nitrate along with nitrogen dioxide and water. So only the difference of the side product that we get here, nitrogen oxides. Similarly, if zinc reacts with nitric acid to give nitrogen dinitrogen oxide, we get zinc nitrate plus water and dinitrogen oxide. And in second case, when we use concentrated nitric acid, we get nitrogen dioxide. Rest everything remains same. Now concentrated nitric acid also oxidizes non-metals and their compounds. So nitric acid is a good oxidizing agent. You must say that it oxidizes many compounds. It oxidizes iodine to iodic acid, carbon to carbon dioxide, sulfur to sulfuric acid and phosphorus to phosphoric acid, which is shown in these four reactions. Then Brown ring test of nitrates. So Brown ring test for nitrates depends on the ability of ferrous ions to reduce nitrates to nitric acid, so which reacts with Fe+2 to form brown colored complex. Now this test is done in your practical, okay, in 12th standard. This is called as Brown ring test, nitrate test, okay. And the observation on this test will be the brown ring which will be formed in the test tube, okay. It is a layer which is formed, and if it is found, then you can say that then there is nitrate group present in your compound. So this is about the Brown ring test. Next we'll move on to phosphorus, that is allotropic forms. we have three types of phosphorus, three allotropes of phosphorus: white phosphorus, red phosphorus, and black phosphorus. Now we should know some important points about each of this phosphorus. So white phosphorus, it is translucent white waxy solid, poisonous, and one thing you need to remember is it glows in dark, that is it shows chemiluminescence property. Okay, this white phosphorus glows in dark, which shows chemiluminescence property, dissolves in boiling NaOH solution in an inert atmosphere. So this white phosphorus, which is having this formula P4, it dissolves in NaOH and water in an inert atmosphere and gives phosphine as the product along with sodium hypophosphite. Then white phosphorus is less soluble and therefore more reactive than the other solid phases, and this is the structure of white phosphorus, wherein all the phosphorus atoms are arranged at 60-degree angle. Now white phosphorus we can take, okay, to produce the other compound. If you take white phosphorus along with 5 molecule of oxygen, okay, then we can produce P4O10. So it consists of discrete tetrahedral P4 molecule, and red phosphorus is obtained by heating phosphorus at 573 Kelvin in an inert atmosphere. And when it is heated, a series of black phosphorus is formed. Now about red phosphorus, you need to only know the structure of it, and yeah, about white phosphorus glows in dark and red phosphorus does not glow in dark. Then about black phosphorus, it has two forms, alpha black and beta black. These are the two forms of black phosphorus. Now alpha black phosphorus is formed when red phosphorus is heated in sealed tube at 803 Kelvin, and beta black phosphorus is prepared while the phosphorus at 473 Kelvin under high temperature. It does not burn in the air up to 673 Kelvin. So this is how the black phosphorus is formed. Then about phosphine, the formula is PH3 of phosphine. Now phosphine is prepared by the reaction of calcium phosphide with water. So this is a calcium phosphide which is treated with water to give calcium hydroxide and phosphine. In laboratory, it is prepared by heating white phosphorus, that is P4, with NaOH in an inert atmosphere of carbon dioxide. So it gives us the phosphine and sodium hypophosphite. Then phosphine is weakly basic like ammonia, and like ammonia it gives phosphonium compounds with acids. So when you retreat phosphine with acid, it gives us phosphonium compounds. Then phosphorus halides. We have two important phosphorus halides, PCl3 and PCl5. So it is PCl3. If you talk about PCl3, it is prepared by passing the dry chlorine over the white heated phosphorus. So P4 is a white phosphorus, is treated with chlorine to give PCl3. Then we can also treat white phosphorus with thionyl chloride to give PCl3. These are the two methods from which we can prepare PCl3. Then talking about the properties, it reacts with organic compounds which contains OH group like acid or alcohol and gives acyl chloride or alkyl halide. So here we have PCl3 structure. So it has a pyramidal shape. Okay, PCl3 has a pyramidal shape, and in which phosphorus is sp3 hybridized. Then next we will talk about the phosphorus pentachloride. Phosphorus pentachloride, we have it is prepared by reaction of white phosphorus with excess of dry chlorine and prepared by action of SO2Cl2 phosphorus on phosphorus, and it gives us this structure. Now here one most important question which is asked is why the three equatorial PCl bonds are equivalent while the two axial bonds are longer than the equatorial bonds. And the reason behind this is the fact that the actual bond pairs suffer more repulsion than as compared to equatorial bond. Since we have only two bonds, okay, these two bonds, they will suffer more repulsion than this equatorial bonds, okay. That's why here the bond length will be, this bond length will be less, this bond length will be more. Then oxoacids of phosphorus. Now here their oxidation state formula and their structures are very very important. So oxidation state we can find by that method only, and here characteristics and their how many POH pH bonds are there, which is given here, that we can detect by looking at the structure. So at least these four structures are important, which tells us about the presence of OH groups and which tells us about the basicity of that group. Since it has only one OH, it is called as monobasic. Since this has two OH, it is called as dibasic. Okay, and this is called as tribasic. So based on the OH group present, they are termed as monobasic, dibasic, tribasic. Then we'll move on to the group 16 elements. Group 16 elements, we have oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium and livermorium, in which these first 5 elements are important. So we can see oxygen, sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. Their atomic numbers are as given and their masses and about the configuration. Then their general configuration is NH2NP4, okay, wherein in p orbital we have 4 electrons. Atomic and ionic radii, if you talk about, due to increase in the number of shells, atomic and ionic radii increase from top to bottom. Now this is followed in every group. Due to increase in number of shells, atomic and ionic radii increases. Then about ionization enthalpy, it also decreases down the group because of the increase in size of the atom. So due to increase in size, however, elements of group have lower ionization enthalpy values compared to group 15. Now one thing you have to remember here, as compared to group 15, in group 16 there is low ionization enthalpy. Now let us see why we get low ionization enthalpy in group 16. Group 15 configuration is NH2NP3 and group 16 configuration is NH2NP4. You can observe both the configuration. Here it is NH2NP3, NH2NP4. Now p orbital can maximum occupy 6 electrons. So p orbital here is having only 3 electrons. That means it is half filled orbital. But here it is having 4. So this is not a half filled or fully filled. So in half filled and fully filled, the orbital attains stability. So in group 15 there is a stability which will make difficult to remove the electron. So ionization enthalpy will be high over here as compared to group 16. Then electron gain enthalpy, because of the compact nature of oxygen atom, it has less electron gain enthalpy than sulfur. And electronegativity, oxygen has highest electronegativity among all the elements in the group and decreases with increase in atomic number. Then we will study the chemical properties of oxygen and other elements. So elements of group 16, they exhibit oxidation states which are given in this table. -2, -1, 1, 2. So this is the, see, these are the states of oxidation, states of group 16 elements which are shown. -2 is a common oxidation state over there, and the stability of -2 decreases down the group. And polonium, it hardly shows -2 since the electronegativity of oxygen is very high. Then anomalous behavior of oxygen. Now this anomalous behavior is due to the same reason. First of all, its small size. So oxygen is having small size as compared to other elements in the group and high electronegativity among the group 16 elements. Then presence of strong hydrogen bonding in water, which is not found in H2S. So hydrogen bonding is strong in water molecule in which oxygen is present, but not in H2S where sulfur is present. Also, one more reason is absence of d orbitals in oxygen, which limits its covalency to 4, and it rarely exceeds 2. So on the other hand, in case of other elements, the valence shells can be expanded and covalence exceeds 4. Then about reactivity with hydrogen, we will talk about hydrides here of oxygen. So oxygen hydrides are this, which are given in table: water, H2S, H2SC and H2TE. So their characters, acidic character increases from H2O to H2TE. So as you go down the group with the hydrides, then acidic character increases. So this will be basic and the last one will be acidic. Now why the acidic character increases? Because there is a decrease in bond enthalpy for dissociation of hydrogen and that particular element. Then thermal stability of hydrides also decreases from water to polonium. Okay, the thermal stability also decreases, and all the hydrides possess reducing property except water. That means H2S to H2TE, they possess reducing property. They can reduce the other compounds. About reactivity with oxygen, they form oxides of the EO2 and EO3 type, where E will be from sulfur, selenium, tellurium, polonium. And ozone and sulfur dioxide are gases with selenium, while selenium dioxide is a solid. Then reducing property decreases from sulfur dioxide to tellurium dioxide. When you react with halogens, okay, elements of group 16, they form large number of halides in the form of EH6, EX4, EX2, and the stability of halides decreases in the order from F minus to Cl minus, group Br minus to I minus. Then among tetrafluorides, sulfur tetrafluoride is a gas and selenium tetrafluoride is a liquid, while tellurium tetrafluoride is a solid. So these fluorides have sp3d hybridization and thus have trigonal bipyramidal structure. Then next is dioxygen, which is very important, O2 gas. It can be obtained in the laboratory by following ways. So first way is by heating oxygen containing salts such as chlorates, nitrates and permanganates. So this is chlorate. Chlorate is treated with manganese dioxide and heated to give KCl, potassium chloride and oxygen. Then by thermal decomposition of oxides of metals low in the electrochemical series. So silver oxide and mercuric oxide are they undergo decomposition to give silver and mercury along with the dioxygen. Similarly, lead and hydrogen peroxide decomposed to water and dioxygen using catalysts such as manganese dioxide. Then these are some reactions which are shown by dioxygen. When react with calcium, it gives calcium oxide. When reacts with aluminium, it gives aluminium oxide. White phosphorus gives this tetraphosphorus oxide, and carbon gives carbon dioxide. Then sulfur dioxide, when treated with oxygen in presence of V2O5, that is vanadium pentoxide, it gives sulfur trioxide. Then when hydrogen chloride is treated with oxygen in presence of cuprous chloride, it gives chlorine and water. Then about simple oxides. Simple oxides meaning a binary compound of oxygen with another element. So oxygen reacts with most of the elements to give the periodic table to form the periodic table to form the oxide. So they can be simple as magnesium oxide, aluminium oxide, lead oxide, ferric oxide, and they can be classified as acidic, basic or amphoteric based on their character. So sulfur dioxide when treated with water gives acid, that is H2SO3, and non-metal oxides are acidic, but oxide of some metals are higher oxidation state, have acidic character. Some metallic oxide, they exhibit dual behavior. They show acidic as well as basic characteristic, and those are called as amphoteric oxide. For example, aluminium oxide. This is the amphoteric oxide which can react with acid as well as react with base and give the respective complex compound. Okay, so this is the one who behaves as an amphoteric oxide. Then about ozone. Ozone is an allotropic form of oxygen and too reactive to remain long in the atmosphere at sea level. So this ozone layer protects. What is the use of ozone layer? It protects the earth's surface from an excessive concentration of UV rays. And how it is prepared? So it is prepared by using a slow dry stream of oxygen which is passed through a silent electrical discharge. So there is a conversion of oxygen to ozone, and product is called as ozonized oxygen. Then pure ozone is a pale blue gas, dark blue liquid and violet black solid. It has characteristic smell and small concentration. It is harmless. So ozone is thermodynamically unstable with respect to oxygen, and due to ease with which it liberates the nascent oxygen, that is ozone gives us dioxygen nascent oxygen, and it acts as a powerful oxidizing agent. So it also oxidizes lead sulfide to lead sulfate and iodide ions to iodine. When ozone reacts with an excess of potassium iodide solution buffered with borate buffer, it is liberated, which can be titrated against the sodium thiosulfate. And this is the quantitative method for estimating ozone gas. Now many experiments, they have shown that nitrogen oxides combine very rapidly with ozone, and possibility of that nitrogen oxide emitted from the exhaust system of supersonic jet aeroplanes, they might be slowly depleting the concentration of ozone in the upper atmosphere. So when nitrogen oxide, okay, combine rapidly with ozone, and the possibility that nitrogen, from where the nitrogen oxide comes, it comes from the exhaust system of supersonic jet aeroplanes. So it will deplete the concentration of ozone in the upper atmosphere. And another threat to ozone is by the use of freons, which is used in aerosol sprays and refrigerants. So that's why our ozone layer is depleted. So with this I finish with this part, and I will continue in the next part of this chapter. Thank you.